Hi there, I'm Sophia, and as always, I'm coming to you today with information related to you taking care of your aging parents. But this time is a little different because I am so honored that I have been asked to speak at the Family Caregiver Conference earlier this month. This year it was held virtually because of COVID-19. But it was a great opportunity to come together with a lot of professionals who are experts in family caregiving. My topic this year was how to deal with difficult behaviors. I'm sure that you're going to get a lot of good information out of it that's going to help you in your day-to-day life of taking care of your aging parent. So let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. You are watching the Family Caregiver Conference. Again, my name is Alex McCool Garza. I am your host, and it is an honor to be here with today's guest. Now, before I introduce you to her, I have to tell you that I found her on YouTube, and she has amazing content. And I was like, oh, please, I hope she can be a part of this conference. So when I got to talk to her and she agreed, I was so happy. And so with great honor today, I'm going to be introducing in grand style Miss Sophia Amapor. So first and foremost, Sophia is a daughter and she cares for her 95-year-old father. She has a 9-to-5 job and also runs her own business. So she is acutely aware of the issues and the stressors that come with trying to balance parent care and a busy life. But she also happens to be a master level, I can never say this word, geriatric. Did I say that right? Geriatric social worker with over 25 years of experience working with seniors and their families from every imaginable angle, in hospitals, in the home, in nursing homes and rehabs. Sophia is most proud of her work for the largest Medicare Advantage plan in California, where she managed the geriatric case management program, which kept over 4,000 frail seniors living safely at home and out of nursing homes. By combining her professional and personal experience, Sophia is able to effectively alleviate the stress and the burden often felt by family caregivers. Let's give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Sophia.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank you so much,
Sophia.
Alex. It's so fun to be here. Thank you for asking me to participate. What a great conference you're putting on. I think that the families here are going to just glean so much from all of the speakers, and I'm so proud to be able to participate. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You bring such great, amazing topics to the caregivers on your YouTube channel. I was so intrigued and I was so enthralled by a lot of your various topics, but one in particular, because in a lot of the caregiver groups that I'm a part of on Facebook and different social media platforms, a lot of people pour their hearts out around different topics. But one of the topics that I saw coming up more and more frequently was dealing with difficult people, whether it be a parent or the patient, the loved one that they're caring for, just dealing with that element of difficult personalities maybe or behaviors. And so I would love for us to talk about that today. And I know we're going to be digging into that because you really have some awesome perspective on that. So I wanted to dive in with that first question, and that is, what kind of difficult behaviors, when someone says difficult, what are some of the commonality or the common behaviors from your experience that you believe most people deal with?
What the range of difficult behaviors, from our everyday life dealing with people, but especially dealing with somebody that we're caring for. I mean, there's just, Alex, a huge range of variety. They can be from really mild behaviors, like memory problems or repeating the same thing over and over, or sometimes anger problems. Maybe the person that you take care of calls you names or berates you. These are the kind of behaviors that I want to talk about today. Yeah. But I think that also in learning how to deal with this, with the people we take care of, it really helps us just deal with life in general and people in general and society, in the world in general. So I think that these are good things to learn, for us in all aspects of the world that we live in especially in caregiving. But I wanted to point out that one thing I'm not talking about today, because I know that in taking care of family members, sometimes the behaviors are super severe. They can be the people that we take care of sometimes can yell at us, cuss at us, spit at us, be physically violent towards us. And I just want to be clear that this is not what I'm talking about today, because that is a whole nother ballgame. It is a whole nother strategy to take care of those. So I'm talking about things that are more, I would say, manageable for a family to take care of at home.
Okay. So no, that's really, really helpful. So what would that consist of? What would be an example of that? And then from your experience, how could someone manage that?
The normal behavior, I'll call them the typical problem behaviors at home. Some examples might be, perhaps a parent who repeats the same question over and over 20 times in an hour, or someone who is paranoid or delusional at home because of dementia or Alzheimer's. It could be anger that's coming out, whether that's coming out because they have a traumatic brain injury or have had a stroke. All of these things affect the brain and change the personality. And we need to reacclimate ourselves to who this person is now and what their behaviors are, and learn how to deal with them. Because really the goal is to be able to be a caregiver for as long as you can, to do it in a way that's not going to break your soul and break your spirit, because once that happens, then we internalize not feeling good about ourselves. It leads to depression and, of course, the caregiver burnout that's so infamous out there.
Or you feel guilty because you think it's your fault, right?
Absolutely.
You think, why are they treating me that way? Is it because something I'm doing or not doing? So what do you recommend when what would you recommend in those kind of situations?
Well, Alex, I think that it's hard to say there's one thing. And in my opinion, there are 4 things that really need to be addressed. And I think that a lot of family caregivers, they focus on maybe one of these areas or maybe 2 of these areas. But I really do think, in my experience, especially with my dad and just working with seniors and people with brain injuries for whatever reason for so many years, you really need to address all 4 areas. And so I'm going to talk about all 4 areas really briefly now, if you want. The first area that I think is so important, and you would think it's a given, and in my experience, it's not a given, but I think it's so helpful, is for families to in-depth educate themselves about what is going on their loved one. Often, when you're in the hospital workers will give you material about what's going on, about Alzheimer's or traumatic brain injury or stroke. And in that moment, people aren't ready to sit there and read. They're worried about, what is this going to mean to me? How am I going to deal with this? And that material goes by the wayside. And for many people, they never pick it up again, or they think they know, or they think they understand, or they've heard little tidbits. But there is so much information out there that really is going to help you. It's important to understand, if somebody had a stroke in a certain part of their brain, what does that part of the brain affect in that person's everyday behavior? It's going to make you, I think, understand. And I think a huge part of being able to deal with the behavior is understanding where the behavior is coming from, that it is an illness, that it's an injury. It will help you cope down the road. So I think educating yourself about Alzheimer's, about developmental disability, about brain injury is really paramount. It's the first step, but it's only the first step. But all the other steps are going to build upon, I think, the knowledge that you have to have. And I don't think it's a one-time knowledge. I think that you have to keep going back and reminding yourself, because we forget. We forget that loved one's brain is injured, and then that's when we start getting angry and internalizing and bringing our own ego into it. I think we always need a reminder.
Yeah.
That's
it
why.
helps us come from a place of compassion rather
Absolutely.
than judgment or thinking or taking it personal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. And
Uh-huh.
there's 3 more, right?
There's 3 more.
3. Okay.
Okay. So, and I'm going to just peek down at my notes every now and then.
Oh, of course. I know this. It's a lot of information to.
It's a ton of information. Yeah.
Yes.
So the second thing that I think families need to focus on is, how do they respond to the behavior? And I know a lot of people who are watching your conference are going to say, we've heard this before, we've heard it before, but you know what? A lot of people hear it, and not a lot of people follow through with it. And it takes practice, a lot of practice, and just remembering to do it. So just real briefly, I'll go over some of the basics, because it's really worth repeating. And really, the goal in, I think, responding to our loved ones is to remember that we're there to provide comfort and empathy, not to win an argument and not to be right. I think that's where a lot of people, their first barrier to having a good caregiving experience is they want to be right. They want to tell the person what to do. But it really, our goal should be to come from comfort and care. The next thing is, like we said, just to not take things personally. And I think that education piece will help with this, and to really take your ego out of it, that it really isn't about us. And I think we often, and I do it too, because I'm guilty, that it's about me. I often feel like, not poor me, but why me? Why is my dad like this? Why is he treating me this way? And you really need to turn it around and focus more on them, and rather than ourselves. And that takes practice. And this is one of those steps that will help you, in your just dealing with the world.
Right. Absolutely.
It's all about us. We really usually have nothing to do with what's going on out there. I think I see a lot of family members convince a person that their behavior is wrong, when that may not be a helpful tactic. If your parent is repeating the same question over and over, telling them, you already asked me that 20 times, doesn't help them. They don't know. And I think just remembering, again, the education, I think, let me step back and say, trying to remember that their brain is injured is sometimes difficult, because someone who maybe suffered from a stroke or has Alzheimer's disease, they don't look sick. And oftentimes it's so easy to forget. But if you saw them right in front of you, Alex, and they had, what do you call it? Bandages around their head, you would remember. Or if they had a scar on their head, you would remember they had an injury. But if you don't have something right in front of you to remind you that they're injured, their brain is injured in some way and they're sick, it's often so easy to forget. So I tell people, imagine when you go in the room, before you walk in the room, imagine that they have bandages on their head.
That's
to
good.
remind you that this is their injury talking. This is their injury bringing their behavior out. But I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to just remember on a day-to-day or hour-to-hour basis that this is their illness. It's not them, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. One of the things about responding, just the common sense things, is, our voice and our calmness and our demeanor impacts that person and their behavior. And I think it's really important to realize that we could be, our responses, even if we don't know it, could be building them up in a negative manner. So keeping a calm voice, watching our body language. Often people try to keep calm. Have you ever try to be calm, but your body's tense and your face is angry, but your face is calm. And your family member, that's what they're going to get from you. And they're not going to understand the disparity between your voice and your body and your facial expressions. And especially some of our parents, they're hard of hearing and all they see is expressions. And even if our voice is calm, they're reading our body, and it's going to make them upset that they're upsetting us or making us angry, even when we're trying to be calm. And so I think it's important, even if it's the 10th time, to always act as if it's the first time. It's the first time for them hearing it in their reality, and their reality is really what we need to deal with.
Yeah. I'm just going to interrupt you there for a second and say, Sophia, that's a real challenge at that point to kind of, after the 10th time, you really have to take some breathing lessons.
Absolutely. And that's going to be my next thing. Yeah. Thank you. It's a segue right into the next area.
Yeah.
The next area, responding is really dealing with interacting with that person. The next area that I want to talk about that is so important that I think not a lot of people practice, but is the most significant thing that is really going to change the situation. And that is really coping with the interactions with mindfulness. And a lot of people, mindfulness, what's that? It's woo-woo.
Yeah, what is it? What is mindfulness?
It's not woo-woo. It's really going to help. It's also another thing that takes a lot of practice. It is really, in a nutshell, it is just focusing on this exact very moment in time only, not thinking about the past, not worrying about the future. It is just focusing on this very moment. And that means also going into a situation, knowing kind of how you're going to deal with it. A lot of people kind of fly by the seat of their pants and put out fires all day. And that's not helpful for the person being taken care of or the caregiver, because you're always stressed out all the time. Mindfulness is more, if you know what the behaviors are of your family member, then prep for them. If you know that your person that you take care of tends to cuss at you every day and tell you that, you're no good, you're lousy, that is just horrible for our souls. And the education is one part, dealing, responding to them, but knowing ahead of time that they're going to do this, and what are you going to do about it? Because you're not going to change them. You're not. And that's another big thing, knowing that you're not really going to change their behavior. And if anything, it's going to probably get worse through time. So what are you going to do about it? You, first of all, like you said, deep breaths before you walk in the room, deep breaths, and write it out. What are their behaviors that they do that trigger you? And what are you going to do about it? You're going to be calm, to kind of have a little plan before you walk in the room. You're going to be calm. You're not going to respond. You're not going to, yell back, just, some of the hardest behaviors, I think, are the verbal.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I hear a lot of people saying online.
And, And I talk a little bit about going into a situation, and this takes practice, a lot of practice, but it is helpful. And that is knowing the difference between letting that behavior or being impermeable to what's coming versus being permeable. And what that means is when you're impermeable, that means nothing can get to you, right?
Kind of like a shield. Kind of like a shield. Yeah.
Kind of like I think like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
But
Right.
and you might think that's a good thing, but when you think about it, that is so stressful to always be fighting everything off all the time. And I don't think that's a place that's good for caregivers to be at, because you don't want to be fighting. You want to be relaxed in your role. You want to be able to focus on the empathy and the care, not fighting off everything all the time. And so I think that it's a better strategy, Alex, to be permeable. Permeable means you let things go through you. And so if you imagine your
Interesting.
your body is made of mesh, okay, and 1,000,000,000 little holes. And when that comes at you, the anger, the name calling, the accusations, you let it come in and you just let it go right through you.
Kind of like a filter, but you don't want to gather any of it.
A filter keeps it inside. You don't want to keep it inside. You want
to let it flow through.
To be calm and just let it, like a cloud, just go.
Oh, I like that.
Man, does that take practice? But if you can do that, whew, that is a huge, huge success, I think, for family caregivers. And that takes a lot. I mean, you have to be mindful about just not letting things get to you, not letting things hurt you, not taking them personally. And just, again, I mean, like a cloud. You just have to imagine.
I like that, like a cloud. Yeah,
right
I'm doing it with you. Yeah.
You're so funny. And you to not let things hurt you, and to act really as if it didn't even happen. And imagine how not only hard that is, but if you could do it, how amazing you could continue to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
And you don't let that get to you so strongly. So to me, remembering to do that, practicing it, not beating yourself up when you can't do it all the time, because of course you can't do it all the time.
Right.
But my hope is that every time it gets a little easier and a little easier.
That's powerful. Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here because I think that what you said from the beginning was that understanding education, coming from a place of compassion for that person and being in an empathetic state to know that it's not about you. They're dealing with something. Sometimes, we think we're doing everything, but we're not in their shoes. We don't know how it is to be sick. We don't know, unless we're struggling with issues as well. But let's say for the majority of, we might be well in our own bodies. We don't know all of the other emotions. So sometimes things come out just out of sheer frustration, right? Just in our normal conversations. And then imagine that's even heightened if you have a brain injury or you're sick or you're dealing with a lot of other stuff. So I'm just, now every time I'm just going to imagine a cloud because I see us going like this, but it sounds very kind of silly, like we're doing this, but I bet a lot of people out there watching will get that and really start, trying to let that, like you said, be permeable, let it go through you and not hold on to it, not keep it, and not let it fester into something.
Not trying to fight it off, not trying to fight it off all the time.
Yeah, because it's exhausting to be in that constant, like you said, it's to be in that constant fight Well, Sophia, first of all, I want to say thank you so much because you gave very practical to the point answers like to these questions, and you really I was looking down at my notes, and you really encompassed really everything um, that we were planning to discuss so um, I know
I
that.
do have the fourth
Please
area.
share. Yes.
I do have the fourth one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, please share.
You have time? Am I
Yes,
good?
please, let's just do it. I want people to learn this, so yes, please
Okay.
share the fourth one.
So, building on the other three is planning for the future. And planning for the future means, understanding it's part of education. What is the progress? What will be the progress of this disease or their illness? Because, you don't want to be blindsided. A lot of people, a lot of caregivers take care of family members who have chronic illnesses, and then they're surprised when they progress and they get sick, like they didn't expect that was going to happen. You have to expect that these things are going to happen down the road. As hard as it is to think about it, you have to be realistic and think about the future. And it also means knowing yourself, because not every family caregiver can deal with the same amounts of stress and pressure and progress of a disease. And there's no right or wrong, but I think it's really important to plan and say to yourself and be honest. I mean, I think this is something some people think if you talk about it, it's going to happen. But I promise if you talk about it, it's not going to make it happen. But you have to talk about, if this gets worse, what will the day look like when I need to make a change? And because I think a lot of people don't recognize that day when it comes. And that's when they really are taking on more than they're able to, and no judgment. I think that at some point, some life happens and things happen, things change, and we can't always take care of our loved one at home by ourselves. And so whatever that change may be, you need to recognize that day. And for some people, I had a man reach out to me, and he was able to he was taking care of his father, an elderly dad. And that dad had, spit at him, cussed at him every day, put him down, berated him. He could take that. But the day that his dad reached out and punched him in the face is the day that he had to say, okay, I can't do this anymore. And so you have to know ahead of time, so that the crisis mode when that day comes. Because when that day comes, you have to have your wherewithal to be able to move ahead with planning.
Yeah.
And so that'd be my fourth thing, is to take some time to think about the future, what it might progress to, and what your limits are, and what your resources might be if that day comes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's sad that things get to that point and sometimes, but that's so true. You have to be honest with yourself, know your limitations, and be willing to have those hard conversations. But planning does take a lot of that stress off. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I know a lot of people are afraid to talk about things like this, but I think as soon as you talk about them, you also release some of the power of fear that sometimes people get gripped in having that conversation. So I thank you for sharing that. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for just sharing your heart and giving very tangible, realistic things that can be applied. So I want to thank you for that. And I just want to, I understand that you have a special gift for our viewers. So I'd love for you to tell us about that. And then how can people get in touch with you and find you? Because first of all, I want everyone to go to your YouTube channel and subscribe, because you talk about so many great things on your YouTube channel. But also, if there's ways they can work with you, please share that. I would love for our viewers to know.
Yeah, absolutely. First, my YouTube channel, it's Sophia Amerpour, Sophia with the F, and at YouTube. And I also have a website, It's sophiaanapor.com. And there, I also have a gift for your viewers. I created this just for them, and it is the Family Caregivers Plan for Difficult Behavior. And I've created this actually as a worksheet. So each individual person can go through and really think about what are the things they need education on, what are the things that they need to work on with regard to responding to their loved one's behavior, what are the mindful things that they're going to work on and think about ahead of time, and what are the things they need to plan for. And I'm kind of excited to put this out there, and that's available at sophiaanapor.com/FCC, Family Caregiver Conference.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that just for us. That's so exciting. And those of you out there who are dealing with difficult people, or you just want to know more and get educated on your own self-care and dealing with family members, please go and visit and interact with Sophia, because she has great, great content, very helpful. I know that you learned a lot today with what she shared. So Sophia, I want to say again, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you and what you're bringing to this community. And I just wish you the best. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the night.
Thanks, Alex. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope that you found that that was helpful for you. Put in all 4 of the steps and you're going to be so far ahead of the game. Don't forget to go to my website and download your free worksheet to create a custom plan for dealing with difficult behaviors in your family member. And don't forget, you can see all of the speakers at the Family Caregiver Conference at familycaregiverconference.com. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time.